Alrighty, good afternoon. My name is Justin Evans, and welcome to Bears Talk today. We're going to be talking everything about Bears football with my co-host, Michael DeFrancisco. Mike, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good. I'm prepped. I'm ready to go, and I'm excited because the football season is a week away.
Yes.
We don't have to wait anymore from February to September.
Nope.
It's over, and we can get into some Bears actual football and not just the preseason stuff.
Awesome. And we're going to give a quick shout out of what we're going to go over today. We're going to talk off-season. We're going to talk what happened in the preseason. We're each going to give our schedule and season predictions of what will happen for this upcoming season. And we're also going to talk about our future number one pick, Caleb Williams. See how he's doing.
The savior of the franchise.
The savior of the franchise.
Absolutely.
So let's talk about some of the notable – let's go in the off-season. Let's talk about some of the notable off-season signings and extensions that happened.
So the Bears kind of opened up free agency by signing one of the bigger names at the running back position. They signed DeAndre Swift to a 3-year, $24.5 million contract. They also signed Gerald Everett, 2 years, $6.1 million. They got Kevin Byard, a veteran safety, for 2 years, $15 million. They also signed another depth piece at the safety position, Jonathan Owens, for 2 years and $4.5 million. But I would argue, Justin, that the biggest offseason move they made was extending Jalen Johnson, 4 years, $76 million. I thought Ryan Poles did a great job of getting him at good value, obviously, for what Jalen Johnson has been, but not really top-of-the-line cornerback money. And I think that's how you build a really good team, because we've seen some of the statistics when it comes to paying these guys at the premium of their position, paying these guys, the most amount of money. And he didn't do that with Jalen Johnson, despite Jalen Johnson being one of, if not the best corners in the NFL last year.
No, I mean, it's a solid pickup. But I agree with you. I love Jalen Johnson, but we got to give love to DJ Moore. 4 years, $110 million. I mean, this guy came in when the Bears were kind of on the upwarding trend of winning games.
It's a very nice way to say they were bad last year. It's a very nice way to say that.
You know what?
Yep.
Listen. We're Bears fans. We
Yep.
have to be optimistic. We
Yep.
have to be able to be positive. But no, I also agree with Jalen Johnson. I also think DJ Moore was an exceptional pickup to have his contract extended, to be able to not only develop a relationship with Caleb Williams, but to be able to help out some of the new wide receivers we have on this team.
Yeah, and I think there was a couple of cool things about that, really. Number one, seeing it on Hard Knocks, the way he was just so nonchalant going back to practice after getting $100 million, which was pretty awesome. But also, like we said, extending DJ Moore, my same point for Jalen Johnson, did not get top receiver money, right? He got about, I believe, $27.5 million annual average value. And, we've seen the receiver market this offseason explode, right? Amon-Ra St. Brown got $30 million a year. Brandon Ayuk just got about $30 million a year. Justin Jefferson got $35. CeeDee Lamb got $34. So to get a guy like DJ Moore, who was so productive last year, over 1,300 yards, for that contract to build with Caleb Williams, again, I just think it was a great move by Ryan Poles.
Once again, we had an exceptional offseason. But we not only had an exceptional offseason, we had an exceptional draft too.
Yes, we did.
Number one overall, Caleb Williams, USC, the franchise savior, as some Bears as some Bears fans like to call it here. Then we had 2 first-round picks. Our second one, 9th-round pick, Rome Odunze from Washington, such an elite wide receiver. Then in the 3rd round, we had offensive tackle. I'm going to buffer this name, but I'm trying. Kieran Kieran. I'm sorry, y'all. Kieran Yale.
The guy from Yale is what he's trying to say.
Yes, I'm sorry if you ever see this, but
Yes.
I'm going to keep going. 4th round pick punter Torrey Taylor from Iowa, and a supreme edge rusher from Kansas, Austin Booker. So we had an exceptional draft too, on top of the publicity of bringing in one of the more highlighted 1st round picks ever, and Hard Knocks. It was just a lot of excitement that was coming into the season. So I feel like now we have to kind of switch over to the regular, or at least not the regular, the preseason, or some things that stood out to you from the 4 games that we had.
Well, you mentioned Austin Booker, and he was a guy that I think a lot of people had as one of the sleepers of the draft. The Bears were able to get him with their last pick. They didn't have a bounty full of picks this year like they have in years past, but he was their last pick, and that's a guy that might end up being a day one starter at edge rusher. He was really, really good in the preseason. He was very disruptive in pass rush. I think he had games with multiple sacks, especially against the Bills. I know it was kind of funny to see him sacking Mitchell Trubisky. I know Bears fans, deep down, I know Bears fans kind of like to see that. But I thought Austin Booker looked really, really good. But the thing that stuck out to me the most about the Bears is that they went 4-0 in the preseason. And that's going to be a rarity going forward because most teams are only going to play 3 preseason games. The Bears had the luxury of the Hall of Fame game as well, which I guess that counts because the game got, rained out. But a win's a win, right? I'm not going to complain. But they went 4-0. And to me, that is only going to be a positive sign when it comes to the depth of this team, when it comes to the coaching. There's some new hires, obviously, like Eric Washington at defensive coordinator, Shane Waldron as the offensive coordinator coming in from Seattle. So I think there's a lot of moving parts, but the fact that this team was able to put together 4 wins in the preseason, again, I'm not going to read too far into it. I'm not saying they're going to win the Super Bowl, but winning games in the preseason, I think, can only be a positive sign when it comes to your depth, when it comes to the way that you're coached. They didn't commit a lot of penalties, so I think that's the big thing that sticks out to me. But Austin Booker, obviously, as well, was a guy that I think really made a name for himself this preseason.
Definitely. I definitely think he was the steal of the draft. Not only that, to talk about some of the personnel here, Matt Eberflus is in his 3rd year of his 4-year deal.
Yeah.
This is a make or break year for him as he's looking to hopefully get an extension and be able to stay with the Bears. How much pressure do you think would be on him this season to not only have his players perform, but to have the team have an overall, success?
I think there's a lot of pressure on Matt Eberflus this year. And I think that he saved his job last year in the second half. His first 2 years in Chicago obviously has both ended in losing records. But last year during the second half of the year, the defense improved drastically, right? And I think that the logic behind keeping Matt Eberflus as coach was, hey, once the Bears traded for Montez Sweat and they had a legitimate star edge rusher, his defense was able to function the way that he wanted to. Obviously, he's coming in from being the defensive coordinator of the Indianapolis Colts. The Bears defense showed massive improvement, right? And so you're kind of riding that wave of momentum. But I do think now there are no excuses, right? Mm-hmm. You've got the quarterback. You've got plenty of talent at the offensive skill positions. You've got a veteran offensive coordinator. Your defense now has Jalen Johnson and Montez Sweat for all 17 games, hopefully, right? There's no excuse, I think, for Matt Eberflus this year. So if the Bears are disappointing or if they, underperform to a big degree, I think we could be looking at a new coach in 2025. But I do think that he saved his job the second half of last season, showing what the defense could be.
No, definitely. We kind of knew once we had our core pieces gel together of what we can do. And that's a great transition, Mike, as now we're going to talk about the regular season, and we're going to give our predictions on what we think each game will be, win or loss. And at the end, we will give our record of what the season will be. So I will go first. Week 1 is going to be against the Tennessee Titans next Sunday, our first game at home. I am going to say that we are going to win that game, and I'm going to say it's going to be by a score of 23-19. The reason why I say that is because, first game jitters for Caleb Williams. And, oh, my goodness, we didn't even mention Keenan Allen, right? We have so many new pieces on this team. It's going to take time for that to gel. I think definitely with the successful preseason that we had, we already have a little bit of what needs to be connected when it comes to chemistry.
Yep.
But the old saying is, you'll never, the preseason and the offseason the preseason and regular season is different, right?
Yep.
So it's always, things will be changing and things will be different. So I'm going to give that one a W for week 1.
I'm going to piggyback off of that. I think everybody has a plan until you get punched in the mouth, right? That's kind of the theme of week 1 for a lot of these teams. They could look good in the preseason. We could hear all the good stuff about training camp and the offseason. What happens week 1 when it's, mano-a-mano, right? I actually wanted to give you a stat really quick that I found researching for this episode. Do you know, Justin, that no rookie quarterback picked number 1 overall has won their first game since David Carr in 2002?
Wow.
It's been over 20 years since a number 1 overall pick rookie won their first game. It's pretty mind-blowing. You mentioned that you think the Bears are going to win 23-19. I think that in terms of first games, this is a bit of a softer landing than it could be. It's not in Lambeau. It's not at San Francisco or something like that. You get a home game versus the Titans, a team that finished 4th in their division last year. I do expect the Bears to win this game. I think their defense is going to show up and show out. I'm going to pick right around where you picked. I'm going to go 24-18. I think the Bears offense does enough. I think their defense is definitely going to probably carry the team in the early going of the year before the offense kind of gets going. But man, I am bullish on Caleb Williams. I really am. And when you let me loose in a little bit here, I'm going to just go off on a tangent about why I think Caleb Williams is just that guy. But obviously, I'm not expecting him to be, Patrick Mahomes in week 1. That's week 2, obviously.
Yep,
I don't expect him to be Patrick Mahomes in week 1. So I do think there will be the normal rookie quarterback struggles. But yeah, I think they win 24-20. Then we go to week 2. And this is where it gets spicy. Week 2, the Bears go to Houston to play the Houston Texans in primetime on Sunday Night Football. I think this game is interesting for a lot of reasons, honestly. I think, number one, obviously, we saw the ascension of C.J. Stroud and the Texans last year and how much better they became virtually overnight. And I think what's interesting is a lot of people expect the Bears to be 2024 version of those Texans last year, right? A team that got their franchise quarterback. They made some other moves, and they just drastically improved. This is going to be a huge test for the Bears early on, not only for Caleb in the bright lights on prime time, but it's going to be a test for the defense. This Texans offense was awesome last year. C.J. Stroud had one of the best rookie quarterback seasons we've seen. So can the defense hold up against guys like Nico Collins and Stephon Diggs and Joe Mixon, their veteran running back pickup? It's going to be a very, I think, good litmus test to see where the Bears are at early on in the year. Are we going to say, hey, maybe they're not there yet? Or, hey, they can kind of hang with the big boys. As of right now, maybe the Titans game will change my mind. But as of right now, I would put that down as a loss. I think, again, the Bears, they need to kind of get their footing. They're going to have, sea legs in the beginning of the year. But I think this Texans team is just really, really good. I'm going to give the Bears a loss in week 1. I'm going to say something to the effect of 27-20.
Excuse me. Yes. No, I agree. Excuse me again. Had a little jeez. Oh man, sorry,
you're so
guys.
scared of C.J. Stroud.
Yeah, I know, right? C.J. Stroud is really.
I mean, I know he's good, man, but come on.
I know he's giving me the heebie-jeebies. No, so I agree with you, Mike. I just think it's going to be hard for them to. I mean, they're going to get. I think it's going to be a great test for them overall.
Yes.
But this is a team that has playoff experience, crazy as it is in year 1.
Yeah.
And you mentioned a good point, right? A lot of people are expecting the Bears to be like this now, but people are also forgetting that we have a rookie quarterback and brand new pieces. Now, I'm not saying that ascension could not happen, but we have a team that has experience. Obviously, Stephon Diggs coming over to the team, huge addition, right? So I think those things will kind of really, I don't want to say tear us apart, but I also believe it'll be a tough challenge. I'm also going to give this an L, and I'm going to say the score will be Texans 30 and Bears 19.
Yeah. Then we go on to week 3. The Bears are playing at Indianapolis Colts. We play 3 of the 4 AFC South teams the first 3 weeks of the year. That might have been a glitch in the schedule. NFL, you might want to check that out.
Talk to Commissioner Goodell.
But we're playing at Indianapolis, and I think the only way to title this game is the Matt Eberflus revenge game, right? Yeah. Coming back to Indianapolis, the place he was a defensive coordinator for so many years. But now he's coming back. He's got the beard now.
Yeah.
He's grown it out. And you saw in Hard Knocks, his wife told him. And I don't know. He's got way more cool factor to him.
He's got the swagger.
I don't even know if they'll recognize him in Indianapolis. He'll just look way more cool. But again, going up against the Colts, a team that barely missed the playoffs last year, but a guy that we didn't see a lot of last year that's going to play a big factor in their season is Anthony Richardson.
Yes. He
missed the majority of the season last year with a shoulder injury, and he is, in my opinion, the ultimate wild card this year for the NFL.
Yes.
He truthfully is just one of those elite guys, one of the most athletic quarterbacks we have ever seen in the NFL, especially at the Combine. And he's going to be a weapon for Indianapolis. And it's going to be a very interesting challenge to see how the Bears can stop a guy who is that dangerous with his arm and that dangerous with his legs. This Colts defense, I don't think is as strong as maybe their offense could be. So I think this is an opportunity for the Bears offense to kind of maybe pick up some slack. Maybe if they, have been struggling early on in the year. But I actually will be optimistic. I do think the Bears can beat the Colts. Again, I'm going to go something close. I'll probably go in the vein of 27-24. I think it's a field goal game. But I think Anthony Richardson is going to be the key to this game. If the Bears can keep him contained, then I think they'll have a good chance to win.
I mean, I agree with you, but I'm gonna say my prediction a little bit more confidently. I think they will win,
Okay.
and there's no doubt about it.
Okay.
Here's why. I feel like with like you said, right, the wild card is Anthony Richardson, right, coming off of that injury he had last season. I think it's going to be more of I'm not gonna say a difficult transition, but it's gonna take some time for them to gel.
Yeah.
And I mean, when I looked at our season schedule and just in general, like the Colts don't scare me enough to Houston. They don't.
Okay.
I think definitely, like you said, their defense is not as great as they should be. But I don't have any confidence in them just yet. Now, if Anthony Richardson comes out and balls out the first 2 games before we play him, then I might get a little sweaty. But I think overall, Houston is a great test for us, right? And let's say we lose that game. I think some of the captains on the team will be able to instill confidence, and that's going to be a revenge game, right? We have a revenge game for our coach, Matt Eberflus, and I just think it's going to be one of those games that we're going to bounce back from Houston. So I don't see the Colts winning this at all.
All right. So we start off the year 2-1 for both of our predictions. We're pretty on par so far. We finish out the first quarter of the season at home against the Rams, a team that I think when healthy are going to be one of the best teams in the NFC. The question is, are they going to be healthy, right? Matthew Stafford has been banged up in years past. Cooper Kupp missed majority of last year. But, man, when you look at that Rams team, I think the one thing you think of is they don't have Aaron Donald anymore.
No.
And that I don't care how optimistic you are about the Rams, that is a huge, huge problem for them. They also lost defensive coordinator Raheem Morris to the Atlanta Falcons. So their defense, I think, is going to be very susceptible. This is a game where I think, you're at home. Caleb has to ball out. You have to, put up points against the Rams because the Rams offense can put up points. I have no doubt about that, right?
Yeah.
Puka Nacua just shattered the rookie receiving record last year. He was phenomenal. Again, when healthy, Matthew Stafford is a phenomenal quarterback. And let's not even mention Sean McVay, who is one of the best minds in the entire NFL. I mean, that guy, coaches circles around most teams. So I think the question is, can the Bears win a shootout? We've seen in years past where the Bears in these high-scoring games, in these circus games, whatever, they haven't been able to keep up. They haven't been able to run in the track meets. So can Caleb and the offense produce enough to keep up with the Rams? Can they put points on the scoreboard? Because I think this game is going to come down to who scores more. I really do. And that's most games, obviously. That's how points work. That's how points work. But I really do think the offense is going to play a bigger role in this than the defense. I'm expecting the Bears' offense to be good, but maybe not good enough to stop the Rams. I think that Matthew Stafford going up against his old divisional rival, I think he takes the win in Chicago. I'm going to have the Rams beating the Bears in Week 4.
Okay. Since I like being a little optimistic, I'm going to say we're going to win that one. And here's why. Like you said, there's no Aaron Donald. I think if the Bears strategically use their run game, I mean, I can't really think of anybody else. Obviously, there's no replacing Aaron Donald, right?
No, there's not.
But there's not anybody who stands out on the Rams defense, especially like a lineman to me.
I agree.
I agree. Will stop
they took a couple guys in the draft.
They did.
Are you really banking on 2 rookies to replace Aaron Donald?
Yeah.
I don't think you can really do that. No.
Exactly. So I think that we have a very good chance of winning this game. I think it will be a shootout, but I also think as well, if we can use our run game to our advantage and be able to, replace that Aaron Donald.
Take some of the pressure off Caleb.
Take some of the pressure off Caleb.
Yeah.
I think we have a good shot here. Now, you are right. Puka Nacua, Cooper Kupp, those guys are dangerous. But I also feel like as well, as Father Time is always on its side, Matthew Stafford's getting up there in age. I mean, how many more seasons can he really produce at a high level? So
I agree.
I believe the Rams will be a playoff team. I believe they'll be a great team. But against our Bears, I'm just not as confident as them winning.
Yeah.
So I'm going to have the Bears winning in this one. It's going to be a close one, 35-30.
Okay. All right. I like it. You mentioned Father Time is undefeated. I would like to point out Father Time is undefeated and won. Their one loss being to Tom Brady, of course. Week 5 at home against the Panthers. Listen, I don't want to be mean. All right. I don't want to be mean. But these are the games you got to win. All right, there's no other way to put that. These are the games you have to win if you're going to be a competitive team in the National Football League. The Panthers, obviously having Bryce Young, the previous year #1 overall pick, we need to send them a gift basket because they gave us DJ Moore and they gave us Caleb and Tyreek Stevenson and another second next year. That will probably be basically a late first. So I'm sorry to just dunk on Panthers fans, but when you were the worst team in the NFL and you didn't have your first-round pick, it looks a little bleak, I will say. Now, I do like their new hire, head coach Dave Canales, coming from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who in the last 2 years has really turned around Baker Mayfield and Geno Smith. He's done great work with quarterbacks, and their priority in this offseason has clearly been the development of Bryce Young. They signed Robert Hunt. They signed Damian Lewis on the interior offensive line, traded for Deontay Johnson, drafted a lot of skill position players in the draft. So clearly their focus is on Bryce Young. Now, I do think Bryce Young will be better. But I think when you look at this Panthers team, there's a reason they were the worst team in the league last year. Like, let's call a spade here, right? Their defense, I think, is very weak. I don't think that they're talented enough offensively. This should be one of those easy games for the Bears. And I hate to call it that because nothing's easy in the NFL, and we know that winning is hard. But this should be one of those games, stress-free. Bears should kind of be in cruise control. I would pick the Bears to win this game 27-10. Let's just have an easy win because, not to spoil it, in the second half of the schedule, there's not a lot of freebies, right?
No.
So when you get an opportunity to play the Panthers, especially at home, you got to take advantage. I have the Bears winning this game pretty easily.
No, I agree with you, but you forgot one thing, how terrible Carolina's offensive line. I mean,
yeah, that's
Bryce
true.
Young was getting sacked
eaten alive.
Yeah, he was getting sacked like a pancake on Sunday morning breakfast. It reminded me of the Cam Newton days when he had taken those hits and stuff like that. I'm just not really confident in the Panthers at all. And I have a buddy, his name's Chris Jackson. I'm sorry, bro. Your Panthers aren't going to be doing that great this season. But you're right. This should be a cruise control game. It should be something that we win easily with no doubt. Like I said, offensive line is terrible, so our defense should really be able to
they should feast.
get some. Yeah, they should feast. They should get some sacks and be able to get some interceptions too. Why not? Let's just throw the whole slander on there. Yep. But no, overall though, it should be an easy game for the Bears here. So I'm going to go 27 Bears, 10 Panthers. Run up the W for me.
All right, so we got the same score, which is awesome. So I have the Bears starting this year. Let me check. 3-2. You would have 4-1 with the only loss being to the Texans.
Yep.
Then in week 6, it's something kind of interesting. The Bears are going to play the Jaguars. However, it's not in Chicago and it's not in Jacksonville. And you might be wondering, well, where would it be? We are going to England for the first international game of Caleb Williams' career. The Jaguars, it seems like they play in England every year, which makes sense. They're geographically the closest. Yeah. This is a very interesting game to me. Very, very interesting because the Jaguars are a team, and this is kind of – I expected the Jaguars to be really good last year. And I
did too.
They really just seemed kind of out of sync all year. They have the talent. They have, Trevor Lawrence at quarterback, who is now very handsomely paid, making over $55 million a year. Travis Etienne. I really like their first-round pick of Brian Thomas Jr. Their defense is a bit suspect, don't get me wrong. But I did expect this Jaguars team to be really good. They went 9-8 last year. And really, they didn't make a whole lot of improvements in the offseason. So it leads me to believe they might be more of the same. If that's the case, I expect the Bears to be competitive in this game. I really do. Now, I think the travel will be difficult. It'll kind of be a routine thing. It'll mess up their routine. The Jaguars, I think, used to. Last year, the Jaguars played back-to-back games in England. I think they're used to it at this point. But I just think that maybe this is a game where things just don't go right. Maybe the long travel, the weird jet lag maybe gets to them. I would have the Bears losing to the Jaguars here. I think Trevor Lawrence is a really underrated quarterback in this league. I think he's going to do a good job. I have the Jaguars winning week 6. I'm sorry to say. It's a coin flip game. It is a coin flip game. I know.
How dare you?
But I have the Jaguars taking it home in London, who's basically that's a home game for Jacksonville. I'd have them taking that game.
I'm sorry, Mike. I gotta disagree with you, man.
Go ahead.
I think the Bears are gonna be eating tea and crumpets and enjoying a good time because they're gonna win.
Sipping tea, pinkies
up. Pinkies up and everything. But no, in all seriousness though, I do think the Bears are gonna win this game, and here's why. One thing that we did not mention is the Jaguars losing Calvin Ridley. Now I know he
True.
wasn't a super huge X factor.
Yeah.
But he was one of Trevor Lawrence's favorite targets last year.
I agree.
And like you said, the defense is a little bit questionable, right?
Yeah.
We know how it was last year, and it's funny because I actually last year I lived in Jacksonville.
Yeah.
And I watched the Jaguars, and like people were so excited, like man, they had the crazy comeback game the previous season before,
and
like
run,
everything was so hyped up, and then it just kind of fell flat.
Yeah.
I think the X factors will definitely be the quarterbacks in this game.
Yes.
You know, who performs better, who is able to find their receivers, and when I look at weapons, we just have more weapons than them.
They do. We do. Excuse me. We do. Yes.
Yeah. So I do think this would be a close one. But I also think it'll be a game that I'm confident to say that will win wholeheartedly.
Yeah.
And for my score, I will go Bears 30, Jaguars 27.
Okay. I like it.
Yeah.
So then after that, they get the week off. They get the bye week, week 7, which is a little early for my liking. I would kind of prefer it later in the year. But I do understand coming off of the England trip, you want to take a bye week. Then game number 7 in week number 8, they go to Washington, to our nation's capital, to play the Washington Commanders. I think the easy storyline here is number 1 overall pick versus number 2 overall pick, Jaden Daniels versus Caleb Williams. I'm interested to see how the Commanders are this year.
Yeah.
Because they're, again, one of those teams where it's just hard for me to get a good read on them. You know, I know that they're going to have Jaden Daniels. We know what Cliff Kingsbury's offense is going to look like. It's going to be that air raid, kind of almost like Big 12. You think like college offense, right? So that could be a difficult challenge for the Bears. But being realistic, I do think that the Bears should win this game. Not as comfortably as maybe Carolina. I think Carolina's a tier worse. But, you know, I think the Bears should beat the Commanders pretty easily. They spent a lot of money in free agency. I think it was kind of empty, though. They signed Bobby Wagner, which would have been great in 2017.
Right.
You know, they got Austin Eckler, which would have been great 4 years ago.
Yeah.
They made some other minor pickups like Frankie Louvu and Jeremy Chin. I just, you know, when you had over $100 million spent in free agency, I think they didn't get a lot of production back, unfortunately. And I don't think Jaden Daniels is surrounded with the supporting cast that Caleb Williams is. I think our offensive line is better.
Yeah.
You know, I think our receivers are definitely better. I think, you know what I'm saying? And I would probably prefer Shane Waldron over Cliff Kingsbury in a coordinator battle. Again, I think that this is a game where we have to take advantage of their bad offensive line. Jaden Daniels, we know, is very athletic, very mobile. That's why he won the Heisman Trophy last year. But that being said, I do think that the Bears are pretty much a better team overall. You know, the Commanders, you know, trade a lot of their pieces last year. I'm going to have the Bears taking this one. I'm going to go 27-17. I think that, you know, this should be a bounce-back game from England.
Man, I agree. I think the Bears will be winning this one as well. I mean, I love Jaden Daniels. I thought he was phenomenal at LSU, but he's kind of like Bryce Young almost, you know.
Yeah, he's
like,
real thin.
Real thin in the middle of what he's dealing with, and he does not have a lot of options receiver-wise from what I remember. And it's just, you know, it's just going to be one of those games where, hey, we're coming off a bye week. We're really trying to have a strong second half of our season. And I think, honestly, that's just going to be another game that we're just going to be able to dominate because of our experienced receivers, right?
Yeah.
And I think really to have a side note, having Keenan Allen besides DJ Moore, you know, having two Pro Bowl, experienced quarterbacks is really going to be huge. I mean, not quarterbacks, wide receivers is really going to be huge. So I have the Bears winning this one in our nation's capital, and I'm going to have the Bears 30 and Washington 17.
I also will say, maybe this will invoke some bad emotions, but my player comp for Jaden Daniels is just kind of thinner Justin Fields. I think he's got a lot of the same problems as a player, but he also has a lot of the same upside in terms of the athleticism and the deep ball accuracy. Because Justin Fields, he can rip it, right? But we're not gonna speak on Justin Fields anymore.
That's like talking about the ex-girlfriend.
We can't talk about the ex-girlfriend. It's like talking about the ex-girlfriend at the wedding.
Yeah,
like,
right.
You can't do that.
We can't do that.
You can't do that. I miss her. Anyways, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Week 9, they're playing at the Arizona Cardinals, taking on Kyler Murray. Now, I've been to the stadium, State Farm Stadium. It was a lot of fun. I will say it was about 1/3 filled with Cardinals fans. They don't really pack out the stadium. And I'm sorry to say, Cardinals fans, no disrespect. You know, I get it. You guys have great weather. You want to be outside. I totally understand it. I think this is a game where there might be more Bears fans there than Cardinals fans, making it almost a de facto home game.
Yeah.
But when you talk about this Cardinals team, the conversation starts with their offense. Kyler Murray, Marvin Harrison Jr., one of the best receiver prospects we've seen in quite a long time. Honestly, if not for him, Rome Odunze might have gone to Arizona.
Yeah.
Because Rome Odunze is phenomenal as well. But Marvin Harrison Jr., it helps that his dad's a Hall of Fame receiver.
Yeah.
That might break the tie a little bit. He's phenomenal. Trey McBride last year was one of the best young tight ends in the league. And they, you know what? They still got James Conner kicking it, man. I'm sick of the James Conner disrespect. I know he's old. I know he's close to collecting his AARP benefits, but he ran for over 1,000 yards last year. All right, he was a really, really solid running back. This Cardinals team, I think they've added an emphasis in this offseason to want to run the football, and I think that's what they're gonna do. They drafted Trey Benson out of Florida State, the running back. This Cardinals team, I think, is good offensively. Defensively, I think they're going to really struggle, right? B.J. Ojulari, one of their, I believe it was their second-round pick in the previous draft. He's going to miss this year, unfortunately. They're really, really thin at defensive line and defensive back and linebacker. If you're a Cardinals fan, don't look up the defensive depth chart. Don't do that. Don't do that to yourself. So this, again, is kind of going to be a version of, like I said, with the Rams, where, hey, can we score enough points? Because I think the offense for this team is really good. Their defense is not very good. I do think the Bears take care of business, though. I don't think the Cardinals are as dangerous as the Rams, even though it might be the same archetype of team. I think the Bears take care of business. I'm going to give the Bears a 31-24 victory here.
Okay. And I agree with you. I think the Cardinals are great. And, I think with what you have Kyler Murray coming off of his injury, I think he's going to be strong. And, I mean, in every season that he does play, the Cardinals do make some noise, and they are really a threat. But like you said, their defense is not really looking strong. And I just have some concerns there on, who would cover what if I was the Arizona Cardinals defensive coordinator, right?
Yeah,
so I just don't have confidence in Arizona. I think the Bears are going to win this one easily. We're going to slap another Bears 31-17 on there, and on to the next one. As Lil Wayne said.
I do not envy Jonathan Gannon this year. I'll tell you that much. I do not. He went from playing in the Super Bowl with the Eagles to dealing with the Cardinals. All right, then I think this is a big game coming up next, and not for the reasons that some of you might think. Week 10, game number 9, at home against the Patriots. Now, I know the Patriots are not very good, so why is this a big game? Because in my opinion, Justin, looking ahead on the schedule, this is the last game before the gauntlet starts. That's what I'm going to call this last part of the schedule. If you look week 10 on, it's division game, at the 49ers, division game. It doesn't really get easy from here. So again, when I talk about the Panthers, those freebie games, quote unquote, you got to take advantage.
Yeah.
You got to take advantage, right? The Patriots are going to, by this point, I would assume, be starting rookie quarterback Drake May. And the Patriots, I think, are really just devoid of talent, right? Their offensive line is really, really bad. It's probably the worst unit in the NFL, if we're being honest. Receiving-wise, they don't got much. Jalen Polk, rookie, 5th-round pick, maybe. I'm not sure. Ramondre Stevenson, I think is a solid running back. But again, we talked about the Rams, where you can't talk about this team without saying they lost Aaron Donald. You cannot talk about the Patriots without saying that they will be without Bill Belichick, who I know Tom Brady gets credit for winning the Super Bowls and everything, but Bill Belichick made that organization stable for over 2 decades. Yeah. And losing him is a significant loss. I do expect the Patriots to be one of the worst teams in the NFL. I'm going to have the Bears, again, taking care of business, winning the games they should win, which is the key. I'm going to have them winning this game pretty comfortably.
I agree, too. I think it's going to be a really, really easy day for the Chicago Bears. Yeah. And I just think just what Mike said, man, like, they don't really have a lot of people on that team that I'm like. Yeah,
you're not worried about a lot of guys.
Yeah, they could stop Caleb Williams. They could stop Rome Odunze. They could stop DJ Moore. I just can't think of it. So I think the Chicago Bears will have a nice Boston clam chowder dinner after the win. And I think they're going to win this game.
We're going to Dunkin' Donuts after the win, baby. Come on.
We're definitely not there. That's why I said clam chowder. I think the Bears will win this one easy, 25, and Patriots. Let's do a 9 on there, 25-9 Bears.
25-9. Yeah. I like it. Also, we should mention that their best pass rusher, Matthew Judon, is now an Atlanta Falcon.
Exactly.
So that doesn't bode well for them either.
No.
All right, Justin. So we've talked about the schedule. We're about 9 games in, roughly the halfway point of the year. I think the schedule makers did the Bears and did Caleb a solid by putting a lot of their easier games, so to speak, in the first half of the year, right?
Yep.
Get Caleb Williams acclimated, let him get his feet wet, let him acclimate to being a quarterback in the NFL. But after week 10, that stops.
Yeah.
That grinds to a halt.
Yeah.
It's Green Bay week.
Yeah.
Week 11. They have to play the Packers.
Those dang Packers.
Now, one benefit they do have is they get the first game against Green Bay at home.
Yeah.
Which could be considered a con when you see where the other game's at, but for now it's a good thing. I think it's pretty simple, and football is a complicated game, and you can throw a bunch of stats and numbers. The Bears have not been able to beat Green Bay. No. It's really as cut and dry as it is, right? When Aaron Rodgers said a couple of years ago that he owns the Bears, he wasn't lying, right? The Packers' record against the Bears, I don't even want to look it up because I think I might shed a tear. It's that bad. Caleb Williams needs to beat Green Bay. Yeah. He needs to beat them, period. He needs to beat the Packers. We cannot go another year with Green Bay dominating us thoroughly twice in one season.
Yeah.
Take one. I'm not expecting a sweep. Take one game. That game needs to be at home. It's going to be, right? Because doing it in Lambeau late in the year is really hard. Yeah. Really hard. They have one of the best home field advantages in the NFL. Speaking on Green Bay specifically, though, their young quarterback, Jordan Love, was phenomenal last year. Their young receivers were great. I do think the question for them is going to be their defense. However, with new defensive coordinator Jeff Howlett coming in from Boston College, I expect a new-look defense. New look meaning I don't know how it's going to look, but it's going to be different than last year, right? So we'll see what that defense looks like. But it's going to be Jordan Love versus Caleb Williams. And, again, I'm just praying that we can beat Green Bay once this year.
Yeah, so what is your prediction?
Do I gotta say this one?
Yeah.
I don't think they do it. I'm sorry. I've seen too many Bears teams that I were like, yes, they're gonna beat Green Bay. They're gonna beat Green Bay, and then I look and it's 48-3 in the first quarter.
Yeah.
You remember that game where Aaron Rodgers threw 6 touchdown passes in the first half against the Bears?
I tried burning that out of my memory, but he just reminded me. So
yeah,
thanks,
I know
Mike.
I'm bringing back a lot. I know I'm bringing back a lot of bad memories for Bears fans. But the PTSD just kind of rushed to my brain there, so I tried to get it out. But that's the thing, and it's so sad. But that's what I think of when I think of this Bears-Packers rivalry in recent years, right? Yeah. And even last year, there was a lot of optimism that the Bears could beat the Packers last year, and they got mollywopped.
They did.
They got mollywopped. It's very disappointing. But again, I try to be real, and I want to be real. I think it's close. I think it's 27-24. But I think the Packers win, unfortunately. I'm sorry, guys.
Yeah, and I know you said don't bring up the all-time record, but I did get a chance to search that up.
No.
So the Packers, in the 208 meetings that the Packers and Bears have met,
yep.
the Packers lead the way with 197 wins and 95 losses to the Bears. Jeez. So his history is not on our side, but I'm going to be optimistic here. Why? Because last year was Justin Fields versus Jordan Love.
Yeah.
Now we got Caleb Williams versus Jordan Love.
Yeah, we got Caleb. Yeah.
We got Caleb Williams versus Jordan Love. And overall, I just think it's going to be a different ball game. I think the pressure is going to be high on Jordan Love this season. I mean, he got paid bank, right?
He did.
He got a nice, big, solid contract.
He did.
So overall, I just don't see this being a historical blowout, right?
Yeah.
I mean, hopefully the ghost of Aaron Rodgers doesn't come and haunt us, knock on wood. But, I'm very confident in what our Bears can do. I think it'll be a close one for sure. Both games actually on the season schedule. And I'm going to have this one let's say Bears 35, Packers 30. We're going to get like a field goal, a couple points at the end, seal the deal.
Yeah, pick 6 on Jordan Love. How about that?
That'd be beautiful.
That's how we win. That'd be great.
Yeah, that'd be amazing. That'd be amazing. Have Jalen Johnson do it.
Yeah, right. Please. And then he does a discount double check, right?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
No, yeah.
All right.
There you go.
Then back-to-back divisional games at home. Week 12, we play the Minnesota Vikings. Now, I think this is kind of funny. I think this is a battle of alliteration. We got JJ versus JJ. Jalen Johnson versus Justin Jefferson.
Yeah.
Right? Number 1 receiver versus number 1 corner. Now, last year, Justin Jefferson missed a majority of the season because he was, banged up. He missed, games, and obviously we know how good Jalen Johnson was. The one JJ that won't be a part of this game, though, is JJ McCarthy. Tore his ACL, unfortunately, for the Minnesota Vikings, and is going to miss the year. So it's going to be Sam Darnold versus Caleb Williams. And by God, if Caleb Williams can't beat Sam Darnold, we got some real issues.
We got
some real issues, especially
we
at home.
Have some issues.
We got issues. Listen, this Vikings defense, I think, is actually kind of underrated because of Brian Flores. You know, I know he's not very likable, especially the way he treated Tua Tagovailoa, but he does have a very complex and complicated defense. If I could sum it up, it's just kind of throw the kitchen sink at people. He just blitzes everybody, which can be difficult for a rookie quarterback. But if Caleb Williams can stay calm, if he can go through his progressions, if he can know where his kind of quick outlets are, I think the Bears could win this game. I think they should win this game. I have this as a win for the Bears. Again, you got to win some of these divisional games. That's how you become a competitive team in the NFL. I think the Bears beat the Vikings at home. What say you?
Man, I would say the same, man. I would say a big advantage is not any of the players in the field. It's having home field advantage, right?
Yes.
Playing at the Viking Stadium, the skull chant in the background, the indoor dome.
Yeah.
I think that's a difficult thing for any away team to face. So the fact that we actually get to play at home in front of our own fans is going to be a huge, huge benefit. And like you said, it's Sam Darnold. It's not not the greatest out there.
No. Let's be real here.
No, it's not the greatest out there. But I do have confidence in our Bears. I have confidence in Caleb Williams. I think by this point in the season, obviously, it's going to take time for Caleb to gel with some of these receivers and running backs. But I think we're going to have some sense of chemistry that will allow us to be able to have a smooth, well-oiled running machine. So I have this one confident. Let's drop a 40 piece on the Bears. So we're going to do Bears 40, Vikings 17, and we're on to the next one.
A little 40 piece with a biscuit and a drink. I like it.
Yeah.
Next game, third straight divisional game in a row. They play the Detroit Lions in Detroit. Now, the Lions were a couple of plays away from the Super Bowl last year, which doesn't feel real to say.
I know, right?
Did I just say the Lions and Super Bowl in the same sentence?
I thought you were saying NFL like simulation or something.
Right. We must be in one of those AI-generated bizarro worlds or something. But no, the Lions are actually good for the first time in our lives. It's pretty crazy. They got back a lot of their key pieces. I think the biggest one was offensive coordinator Ben Johnson. He was awesome last year for them. They also drafted Terrion Arnold, one of the best corners in the draft. They signed DJ Reader in free agency. This offense is largely the same. I expect the grounded pound to be significant. David Montgomery coming back for his revenge against the Bears, and Jahmyr Gibbs, who's one of the most exciting young running backs in the NFL. Now, I will say the Bears have actually fared very well against Jared Goff, or as I like to call him, Jared Goof. Sorry, that's a random stray. But no, they've actually fared very well against Jared Goff. Last year, he looked very pedestrian against the Bears defense.
He did.
So I think that's going to be the key. Can the Bears get some takeaways? Last year, he threw, 3 interceptions against the Bears?
Yeah.
That's what kept him in the game. I think that's going to be the key. Unfortunately, though, in Detroit, I just don't know if they're able to get it done. Again, this is a really, really good Lions team. I think if you're worried about this Lions defense, not being able to stop Caleb Williams, I wouldn't disagree with you, but I think they're going to say, hey, we're just going to run the ball all game. We're going to just milk the clock, and it's going to be hard for the Bears offense to get on the field for a significant portion of this game. I have this as a loss, unfortunately.
Yeah, I do too. I just think in that environment, Lions fans are already excited. They did not expect to go as far as they did in the postseason last year. Yep. So I just think it's going to be, once again, I think while I don't believe we'll win this game, I think Detroit will definitely have high expectations coming to the season, wanting to make sure that they actually close the door and they get to a Super Bowl for the first time. So definitely I don't have Detroit. I mean, I do have Detroit winning this game, but I think it'll be a close one. I have them winning 25 and Bears 17. I think we're going to, we're going to have an experience, because I don't say a loss. It's an experience.
It's a learning experience.
It's a learning lesson to make them better.
Yeah.
So I just don't see them actually winning that one at Detroit.
According to Justin, the Bears are going to go undefeated. They're either going to win or they're going to learn, ladies and gentlemen. There's no losing for the Bears this year.
Yeah.
Next week. Oh God, this is some brutal stuff, man. Week 14,
champs.
Jeez Louise, got to play at San Francisco. Not only do we have to play the 49ers late in the year when the Bears are hopefully making a push for the playoffs, but they got to do it in San Francisco. Whew. Wow, that's kind of brutal. Where to start with the 49ers? Well, first of all, it seems like they assembled the Avengers, which is awesome. And as much as I love Caleb Williams, I don't know if he's Thanos. So it might cause some problems for the Bears. They re-signed Brandon Ayuk. Turns out today they're going to work out an extension with Trent Williams, Christian McCaffrey, George Kittle, Kyle Juszczyk, because fullbacks need love too. And then on defense, they're really, really solid as well. Fred Warner and Nick Bosa are two of the best at their position in the NFL. They're led by Kyle Shanahan, one of the best coaches in the NFL. There is not a lot of weaknesses in the armor here. No. And this will be a game where I will be very pleasantly surprised if the Bears win. I do not expect them to do that, unfortunately. Again, we're talking about the 49ers, the cream of the crop of the NFC. A lot of people's favorites to go to and or win the Super Bowl this year. I don't know if the Bears are on that level yet. And again, this is the point of the year where the 49ers will still be in competition, I think, for one of the top seeds in the NFC. They're not just going to lie down and roll over. This is going to be a big game, but I do think the 49ers win, unfortunately.
Yeah, I agree. They've been to the Super Bowl twice in the past 5 years. I mean, the experience that these guys have, and you forgot one standout guy, Nick Bosa. That guy is guy's a monster on defense. And I don't
want to think what he's going to do to Caleb. I don't want to think about that. Please.
I don't either. It's just. I could see if Caleb was a third year and he had some experience under his belt, but this will be, like I said in the previous prediction, a learning lesson for these guys because there's no unless you go on Madden 25 and play the Bears and win, there's no way that they're going to actually win in real life.
Jeez.
So I just listen.
No way they win this game.
No, unless. You have some key injuries and
stuff like that. You turn up the sliders
that.
Maybe on the
you don't do all Madden, you do rookie.
Right.
You might be able to get by, but I can see this being a tough blowout for the Bears. So I'm going to go 49ers 35 and Bears 13.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Brother, 22 points?
Yeah.
Jeez.
Like I said, that defense is going to stifle our what we have.
It's going to be tough.
It's going to be tough. It's going to be hard. I'm not going to say it's impossible because – hey, they could win.
Yeah.
But I don't see it.
Safe to say they're probably going to be licking their wounds after this game.
Yeah.
Coming off a brutal game. And then you don't get much of a relief. You got to go to Minnesota, another divisional game in Minnesota. You were just talking about the deafening atmosphere that they have in Minnesota with the skull chants. This, I guess, is maybe you could say an easier team.
Yes.
But the environment is not going to be easy.
No.
The Vikings at this point should be probably still alive, trying to compete for one of those last wild card spots. Kevin O'Connell, we mentioned, is a really, really good coach for the Minnesota Vikings. I am going to have the Bears bouncing back and winning this game because I think that's what good teams do. I think that's what good leaders do. I think that's what well-coached teams do, is that they're able to bounce back from a embarrassing game the week before. But I will say, there was a stat last year, which is kind of crazy, that teams that had played the 49ers the week prior had a winning percentage of like 15 the next week. Like, you don't play the 49ers without a few, nicks and bruises. So
sure,
this is going to be a hard game for the Bears. I think this is one of those games where the defense needs to really play Superman. I think the defense is going to have to save the day. I'm predicting like 17-10.
Yeah.
Not going to be a pretty game. It's not going to be a game where Caleb scores you a bunch of fantasy points. I don't think. This defense, I think, is going to have to really step up. And I think they do. I think it's a lower scoring game against ugly, but it's an ugly win. Yeah. And I'd rather have an ugly win than a pretty loss.
Yeah.
So take the ugly win, get it in Minnesota. I have them winning this game.
No, I agree. I also have them winning this game, and I just think overall it's gonna be a nice fallback from facing the NFC champs of last year.
Yeah.
I just think overall the Vikings that injury they had to their rookie quarterback who hasn't even played a snap yet is going to be huge.
Yeah.
And I just don't think Sam Darnold is going to give me a Nick Foles performance
hopefully
like
not.
that. Hopefully not.
Hopefully not.
I would say, we still have to watch out for the obvious. Justin Jefferson is newly re-signed wide receiver. He's going to have something to say about it. But I have a lot of confidence. We have a lot, like I said, I think one of the biggest benefits of this season is we have a lot of offensive weapons on this team that is ready to give you yards after carry, and everything in between. So I just don't see the Minnesota Vikings really, having
matching us.
Yeah, matching us.
Going band for band with the Bears. Yeah.
No, I just don't see it.
Yeah.
So we should win this game. I'm dropping another 40-piece, Mike. 40-7.
Whoa.
And the reason why I'm saying that is because I think we're going to get beat so bad by the 49ers that we're just going to...
We're saving all of our points for the next week.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
I like it.
That's what we're doing. We're saving all of our points for the next week. So
I like it.
Yeah.
Next week, another divisional game. Wow, this is
a
brutal part of the schedule.
Goodell, I'm going to come find you. I know where you live.
Yeah,
I'm
right.
kidding. I'm
Goodell,
kidding.
Goodell, we're on to you, man. All right?
We're on to
You're
you,
not
bro.
slick. Anyways, get the Lions this time at home. And you know what, Justin? I don't know if it's the fact that you just said that they're going to put up a 40-piece against Minnesota. I don't know if now you got me thinking about Caleb Williams and this team. They're going to beat the Lions. They're going to beat the Lions at home. Come on, give me.
Yeah.
They're gonna beat the Lions at home because they need to win this game. This is going to be a huge game for their playoff chances. And listen, if you had to tell me they win one against Detroit, I would tell you they definitely win the one at home. Chicago is going to be a really, really cold place in Week 16 here. So think about the Lions, right? They play a lot of their games in the dome. They have a dome. So maybe this Detroit Lions team is not going to like the cold weather Chicago that we're going to have. And like I've said, Jared Goff has looked very pedestrian in his career against the Bears, and especially in cold weather. Because Jared Goff, let's think about this. He's a California kid.
Yep.
Went to the University of California. Then he went to the Los Angeles Rams. Then he plays in a dome in Detroit. So I don't know if the cold weather is necessarily going to be his friend here. I think it does help the Bears. I think the Bears win this game. I think this is an early contender for Game of the Year for Caleb Williams.
Yeah.
Just because of the stakes of the game, the absolute, determination that he's going to show to will the Bears into the playoffs. I think they win this game. I'm going to go 24-21, decently high scoring, but I think they make enough plays, and I think they keep their playoff chances alive.
I agree with you, Mike. I think they keep their playoff chances alive in this one. We're at home. We're coming off of a dominant win against Minnesota, and like I said before, I just think as you give this team time to gel and you let their receivers and their running backs kind of gel together, I think we're going to get more confidence. And the one thing that I loved in Hard Knocks is how well he communicates to his receivers and just, instills confidence in them. And I believe that's going to continue even when the cameras are not there, right?
Yeah.
So I confidently will say I think that, depending on where Detroit is at the end of the year, that this will be a close one.
Yeah.
But I believe we'll win it having that home field advantage. And you're right, Jared Goff is going to freeze his fingers off because he's not used to being outside in the negative 16-degree weather when it's, the couple of days before Christmas. So I have a score of Bears 23 and Detroit 17, and I think we're going to get another win right before the Christmas holiday.
Yeah, that would be quite the Christmas gift for Bears fans. Now, speaking of Christmas, the day after Christmas, they host the Seattle Seahawks, and this is going to be a tough game. This is going to be a tough game for a couple of reasons. Number one, the Seahawks are also going to be right in the thick of the playoff picture. They are going to be, I think in playoff mode come these last couple of weeks, trying to get some wins. While I don't think the Seahawks win their division because the 49ers are in their division, I think they'll be fighting for the wild card. Same with the Bears. So this game could advertently, determine who makes one of those last wild card spots in the NFC. Now, I think the Seahawks are actually a really underrated team. Geno Smith, I think, has proven to be a good quarterback. New head coach Mike McDonald, I think, is going to change this defense from what it's been. They've been just brutal against the run the last couple of years, and Pete Carroll really just, I think, lost the sauce a little bit at the end there. Mike McDonald's coming in now, the youngest head coach in the NFL. But this is a West Coast team coming to Chicago at the end of December. I don't know. Maybe we're thinking the weather's too much of a factor here, but I think the Bears maybe win this game. I think it's this close. It's razor thin margins. The Seahawks team is very talented, and I think, like I said, they're very underrated. But just being at home for this Bears team, I'm gonna give them a win. I'm gonna go maybe 20. I'm gonna go 21-20. I'm gonna go it is a really, really, really close game. But again, the Bears do have the advantage playing at home. But this is going to be a tough game against the Seahawks team. That'll be, honestly, they might have the same record going into this game. They might be, in the 9-10 win range come season end. So it'll be tough for sure. But I think they win.
Yeah. What did Geno Smith say last year? They tried to write me off.
I ain't right back.
I ain't right back.
And
I think that's going to be the X factor, right? We're going to be seeing a Geno Smith that had a phenomenal season last year with the Seahawks, and he's going to be wanting to take that team even to a higher level.
Yeah.
So while I do think the Bears will win this one, I think it'll be a close one just
Yeah.
because of the experience. I mean, he's an experienced veteran.
He
Like
is.
when you want,
He is.
let's say if your star QB gets hurt, that's like not even like, that's the number 2. Like, hey, I know this guy has been in playoff situations before. He's been in close game situations before. He knows what he's doing, and and even now, he's getting up there in age as well. Like, he has the confidence to still go out there and perform.
Yeah.
So I think I almost said Detroit because I saw Detroit on my computer. I think Seattle will win. Or no, not Seattle. Jeez. I think the Chicago Bears. We've said Seattle so much, man.
Yeah,
it's
we
in
have.
my head.
We have.
I think the Bears will win this one. I also will think it's a close game. Let's do a 25-20. It's gonna be an error by one of the teams. Especially Seattle. That's gonna cost them late, and the Bears are gonna get a after Christmas birthday or not birthday after Christmas
after Jesus' birthday. Yeah.
Jesus' birthday.
I will say that one thing that makes this matchup so interesting with the Seahawks and Bears. The Seahawks have excellent receivers. The Bears have excellent receivers.
They do.
The Seahawks have excellent corners, and the Bears have excellent corners.
Yeah.
The skill position battle in this game is going to be phenomenal, right?
Is.
Because, I mean, you got DK Metcalf, Jackson Smith and Jigba, who I think is going to have a great year.
Yeah.
Tyler Lockett's still kicking it. And then defensively, Tariq Woolen and Devin Witherspoon are, I think, in my opinion, one of the best cornerback tandems in the entire NFL. So it'll be very interesting. It'll be a Geno versus Caleb spotlight, and I think Caleb maybe gets the edge there. All right.
Yeah.
Last game of the year, and I'm going to cry. I'm going to cry, Justin. At Lambeau Field, going up against the Green Bay Packers. This game is going to decide something, right? It's going to decide something. Does it decide if the Packers win the division? Does it decide if the Bears get into the playoffs? Does it decide if, the Packers get into the playoffs? Who knows? This NFC North is going to be very highly contested on the top with the Lions, the Packers, and the Bears. I promise you. Shout out Alex. Thank you, Alex, for further emphasizing how important this game is for the Bears this year. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
But this is going to be a very important game for the Bears. And God, playing in Lambeau Field, I would not wish that on my worst enemy.
I wouldn't wish that on my worst enemy either. Yeah.
And unfortunately, I wouldn't also wish it on Caleb Williams, who, listen, hot take coming. Ready?
Yeah.
If Caleb Williams in Week 18, the last game of the year, beats the Packers in Lambeau Field, build him a statue outside of Soldier Field. Build that man a statue.
Wow.
Build him a statue. No nothing. No pause. Build him a statue. And put it in gold outside the stadium. Pure gold.
You heard the man. Put it.
Yeah.
I can't even think of the people who would build a statue, but
yeah,
get on it. Get on it.
I don't know. Admittedly, I don't know that. They just kind of show up in the stadium. I don't really know.
Yeah, they just magically.
It drops from the heavens.
Yeah. I mean it's going to be a tough one at Lambeau Field. I know I have been throwing a lot of W's out there, but I have 2 L's in my middle name, and I'm going to use one of them for this. I'm going to use one of them for this one because I think it's going to be a very, very tough game, not only to win in Lambeau Field, but we just don't have a good record against the Packers when they're at home. No. Now, I think it'll be a huge win coming off of a season that we've had if they do win it, but I can see Jordan Love and company just doing what they need to do to get things done. I'm going to say for this one, I don't want to say a blowout, but I think it would be close to, Packers 30 and Bears, I'll give them 10. I think the cold weather is just going to freeze them up, and we're just not.
Is this one of those where the TV is turned off in the third quarter? Is that,
I've been
there.
Be.
We've been there before.
It might be, and if we do that, then we just know. Yeah. Just know that
well, hopefully the Bears have done enough at that point, or maybe a few things go their way to where they will be in the playoffs. I have them going 10-7. I believe if I did my math correct, you have 11-6.
Yeah.
That is pretty nice. And considering they won 7 games last year, I think those new additions, most notably Caleb Williams, will help them to be a much better team. Now, I have 2 more questions for you, Justin, before we end this first episode. Number 1, I guess we already kind of know. Do you expect them to make the playoffs this year?
I do.
I do as well. Mm-hmm. I think 10 wins gets it done. 9, you need some strength of schedule, tiebreakers. You might need this team to lose to a really bad team or whatever. 9 wins would be tricky. I think 10 wins should get you in the playoffs, especially with that third wild card team. And 11 especially, they should be good to go. And then my last question, and what I kind of want to end on is, realistically, I'll try to be realistic. I can't make any promises. What are your expectations for Caleb Williams this year? He is, by the way, the odds-on favorite, like by a long shot, to win Offensive Rookie of the Year.
Of course.
So, tell me what your expectations are.
Man, I just have high expectations, right? I mean, we have waited. This franchise has waited for
100 years.
100 years. 100 years, of torture, and which as a good friend of mine said, this is where quarterbacks come to die. Well, I feel like this might be the Superman or the X Factor, right?
Yep.
I definitely think, like I said throughout this podcast, it's going to take some time for Caleb Williams to really adjust, get used to his new receivers, get used to playing in the NFL in the regular season because there's a different type of pace, speed, intensity, all of that stuff. So I think that, I will have high expectations, but I also have patience too, right? I mean, we have seen a lot of rookies kind of flame out that first year, and I'd rather have an inconsistent, season from Fields than trying to, have a season of where he's great.
Did you say Fields?
Oh my God! I did say
talking about the ex-girlfriend again.
Jeez.
Talking about the ex. Oh my gosh! If I mention my ex-girlfriend in a casual conversation, dead on sight.
Your girl's gonna kill you.
Absolutely.
No, I'm sorry, not Fields. Williams. I don't know what Fields came from. I guess I'm just not over Fields yet.
I'm
not over Fields yet.
Jeez.
Oh my goodness. But I think Williams overall, man, he's gonna have a great season. But I also think it's gonna take some time to gel. And really, if you look at our season schedule, I mean, he's gonna have to gel quick, especially when it comes to the weeks of 2 to 6, and from weeks 12 to 16. I mean, it's
brutal.
It's just brutal. So I mean, I have high expectations, but I also have a lot of patience for Williams this season.
Yeah, I obviously, I'm really high on Caleb Williams, and I unequivocally believe that he will be the one to reverse the jinx of what you said. You said where quarterbacks come to die. Yeah. Well, maybe he's the Grim Reaper, right? Maybe he overcomes death there. And I do believe that's going to be the case. I do, however, want to be realistic about rookie quarterbacks. Yeah. I think in the NFL, the NFL world has gotten a little too accustomed to, all right, you got to be good right away.
Yes.
CJ Stroud was good right away, right? You know what I'm saying? A lot of these guys were good right away. And Justin Herbert a couple years ago for the Chargers was good right away. And I'm just kind of like, all right, let's relax a little bit.
Yes.
Because some of the best quarterbacks in our game have struggled coming out of the gate, right?
Oh, yeah.
And I don't want to, I'm not picking the Bears to go to the Super Bowl this year.
I'm not either.
I'm not even saying they're going to win a playoff game, realistically, right?
Yeah.
I want Caleb Williams to grow, and I want to see a lot of signs that he can be the guy for the next few years, right? But I'm not putting the world of pressure on him this year. I do expect the Bears to have a winning record. I expect them to make the playoffs. I expect him to throw for about 3,000 yards. I put about 25 touchdowns, which would be close to the all-time rookie record. And I did have 15 interceptions because I do think that, coming from his style of play at USC where it was very, I don't want to say like video game-esque, but it was kind of like, backyard football. Draw up your own plays, what I'm saying, run around. And I think those are great, and that's what separates, I think, some of the good quarterbacks from the great quarterbacks. You don't see Jared Goff doing stuff like that, right?
No, you don't.
You got to rein it in a little bit. Just a little bit. You know what I'm saying? Don't be so careless with the football. And I don't think that's going to be a huge problem with him. Realistically, I can live with 15 interceptions, especially in a rookie year.
Yeah.
But I think that, again, like we said, he's going to be great. But as far as I know, that's pretty much going to do it, right?
Yeah, no. Thank you guys so much for tuning in today. We'll be back next week with our next episode of our first game of our season. But before we cut off, you did tell me before the show that you're actually going to be at the game.
I am.
Sunday. So.
I dropped a lot of money. I dropped about half a paycheck. I'm just kidding. But I did get some tickets for the first game against the Tennessee Titans at Soldier Field. So I'm very excited. I'm going to get a firsthand experience. Maybe I'm going to get my heart broken. I don't know, because the last time I went to Soldier Field, it was terrible. But I'm going to be there. I'm excited. And, next week, this was kind of our episode 0, kind of just, getting our feet wet and everything like that.
Of course.
Next week, we will be hopefully coming to you guys live day after the game to get our instant analysis, instant thoughts on everything. So I'm pretty excited. This was a good first episode. I think we kind of laid out the framework for the expectations for this year. And yeah, that's pretty much all for me, guys. Thank you guys for watching.
Of course. We're signing out.